Let us now understand how do we relate a graph which represents amount accumulated using simple interest. I am Anil Kumar. Welcome to my YouTube channel and the website Global Math Institute. Here is understanding of simple interest with reference to a graph. The question here is, the graph shows the amount of an investment earning simple interest. Question 1. What is the principal? Question 2. What is the annual interest rate? Question 3. Write an equation to relate amount to time. And question 4 here is, use your equation to determine how long it will take to nearest month for the original amount to double. Well, the graph shown here is for amount of the investment with time. Simple interest is being added and therefore the principal amount increases, and based on that we have these questions. You can always pause the video, answer this question and then look into my suggestions. Now let's begin with the solution one by one. Question number 1. What is the principal? Now principal is the amount which is invested at t equals to 0. So the principal should be $200, correct? All the amounts are given in dollars, so we can write principal P as equal to $200, right? So that is actually the A intercept, the amount intercept, which is shown here, correct? Part B is, what is the annual interest rate? Now, how do we find the annual interest rate? Well, we know that in this example, we are talking about simple interest, right? So what really happens is that the amount increases with reference to the interest, right? So we have the principal, and on the principal, there is interest rate, let's say R. In that case, interest will be P times R times T. Every year, that amount will be added to the principal amount, and so we are going to get the final amount at the end of the year, right? So that becomes the equation. Now this equation does remind us of what? Well, you could rewrite this as PRT plus P, right? So this is similar to the equation y equals to mx plus b, right? So b, the y-intercept, here is the intercept for the amount invested. And PR should relate to the gradient or the slope, right? So basically we can say that m is equal to p times r. Since we know p, if we find m, we can find r. Makes sense, right? So you can now pause the video and find the interest rate. Now in this graph, we are given a point here which is 5 to 80. You can use this point to find the gradient or the slope. So slope, as you know, can be written as difference in y values divided by difference in x values, correct? So we can write the slope as equal to 280 minus 200, right? Those are the y values. 280 minus 200 divided by the x values, which is 5 and 0, right? And this gives us 80 divided by 5, or 80 divided by 5 is what? So 5 goes 1 times, right? 30, 16. So gradient here is 16. Now this gradient 16 is equal to P times R, right? So P times R is equal to 16. Since we know the value of principal, we can find rate of interest, which will be 16 divided by P, or 16 divided by 200, right? and 16 divided by 200 is, we get 0.16 divided by 2 or 0.08, right? Which means interest rate is 8%. So decimal equivalent 0.08 and percentage equivalent is 8%. You get the idea. So the gradient actually gives you the interest earned on the investment principal amount, right? So that is how you relate them. So now we know R is 8% and therefore we can now write down our equation as A equals to 200, right? 200 is the principal plus 200 times 0.08 times t. Makes sense? So that becomes the equation which is going to relate to this situation. Perfect? Let's move on. So part 3 is write the equation to relate the amount to time, correct? Since we now know that principal P is equal to 200, right? Rate of interest R is 8%. 8% really means 0.08 as a decimal equivalent, and therefore we can write down the amount as A equals to PRT plus P, right? Either way you could write. So A equals to 200 times 0.08 times T plus 200, right? Which is, we knew the gradient is 16, right? 16T plus 200. So that becomes the equation in this particular situation. Does make sense to you, right? So we're done part 3 also by writing down the equation from the graph. Well, now let's do the last part of this question, which is use your equation to determine how long it will take to nearest month for the original amount to be doubled. So we got the equation as A equals to 16 T plus 200, right? So double the amount means we start with 200. We want to make it amount as 400, right? So it'd be 400 equals to 16T plus 200. Perfect. Taking away 200 will give us 16T, and therefore 200 divided by 16 will give us the time in years, right? 16 when you divide into 200 will give us time in years. And how much is that time? Well, you can always use the calculator to find the answer. Here we have T equals to 200 by 16. So both can be divided by 4, right? For example, so if I divide by 4, I get 4 here, and dividing by 4, we get 50, right? We can still divide, we get 25 by 2, right? Dividing by 2 further, or it is 12.5, right? 12.5 years, correct? So 12.5 half year means 6 months. We want to give it to the nearest month, right? So we have the answer as time required to double the amount is 12 years and 6 months, right? Or 12 and a half years. Makes sense, correct? So that is how you could actually solve this particular question. So does it make sense? Perfect. So with this, we have understood the complete concept. So let's look into the situation. We were given a graph which related to investment and increased amount based on simple interest. As you can see, it is always a linear graph. The gradient of this graph represents the rate of interest on the amount invested. Perfect. And once we find the equation of this line which represents the amount, we can extrapolate or interpolate and find the amount at any instance of time. Make sense? I hope you understand and appreciate it. Feel free to write your comment, share your views. If you like and subscribe to my videos, that'd be great. In case you want to learn from me, send an email on the address given. Thanks for your time and all the best.